Okay, so I wanted to make some custom length ropes. You can buy the preset lengths with the loops on the end, but they can be more expensive. I wanted to take a 150-foot length that I had of 1/2-inch rope and cut my own custom lengths and secure the ends so they didn't unravel. There's probably tons of ways to do this to get it to look good and be functional. The way I did it may not have been great at the end here, and we'll talk about that, but if your ropes look like this and you need some custom lengths, you can do it. I took this large towing rope that I had. It was only 1/2 inch. That may not be a great towing rope, but for smaller boats it is. And I wrapped the ends with string, and I dipped them in wax. And when I put them in the wax, it was probably a little bit too hot, and I probably should have used a better, like a double boiler. You want to make sure your wax is 150 degrees or less. If it's higher than that, it may burn like these did. 150 degrees was a safe temperature to not burn any items and have the wax still be clear and liquid. So these came out like this. I'll be honest, I'll be transparent. They look a little bit rough, but now I've got 18-foot lengths of rope that I can tie up with that have secure ends that aren't going to ravel out. There are other ways, sure, I could have secured these and maybe done some kind of stuff. I'm not a rope guy. I mean, I use ropes, but I'm not one of those specialists. So one thing, though, about these is, you know, if you lose ropes out in a tie-up, you lose ropes. People walk off with them. They might, you know, snag them. They might get lost somehow. These ropes will never be mistakenly somebody else's. I can see these ropes from a mile away and say, "You got my ropes," because I can identify these in a second. And the cool thing about doing your own is you can make custom lengths. I didn't want 20 or 25 footers, a bit too long. 15 seemed a bit short for tying a couple medium-sized boats together. I mean, you know, I'm saying 40 to 50-foot boats. So these are 18 footers. It may cost less to make your own compared to buying them in preset lengths, but I'm into saving money, and if I've got extra rope lying around, I like to use it. So okay, I'm going to take this 1/2-inch line. I'm going to cut it into pieces of 15 foot, 3 of them. I'm going to use this string, which is number 24 size string, and use it to tie off the ends so they don't unravel. I'm not putting eyelets on the end of one of the rope. I'm just going to basically have 2 straight ends. So I'm going to use candle wax to seal up the ends to keep them from unraveling and keeping this kind of securing this string down so it's a little more solid. So I'll show you those when I get done, and let's go through the process. I'm trying this for the first time. Okay, so I measured out 18 feet of this rope that I want to have as my main line. And I'm going to start, and I marked it here with a zip tie just to keep it kind of marked off. I'm going to tie both ends of this line, and then when I'm done, I will slice it here and pull off the zip tie. I won't need it anymore. Basically, I'm using an old school square knot. I'm taking this piece of string and just tied it around the rope once and kind of snug it up. Okay, and you want to take the loose end and just align it with the main part of the rope, like that. And I cut the main part of the string to about 4 or 5 feet because it was easier to handle that way without the other ball end on it kind of flopping around. So now I'm going to do is I'm going to take the main part of the string, and you don't want a big knot here. You want it to be kind of flat. Take this main part of the string and just start wrapping it around over top of this loose end. The short loose end. I'm going to start tightly wrapping it around, and it's a bit cumbersome with this extra piece of string kind of flopping around, so you gotta first start out kind of patiently. And as you see, I'm keeping this short part underneath the main wraps. This is going to kind of secure it so when we do tie off the other end, there isn't a loose end up here on top. As you can see, I've got a little bit of a a little bit of a pattern going there. We're still going around the rope like that. Here's the flat part. Let's see. I'm going to go to probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of this way. So just keeping this loose part of the string there. I'm going to keep wrapping the big long part around, and I'm kind of snugging it up as I go. So this is a nice, a snug wrap. I'm going to tie it off at the end, and then when we wax it, it should stay pretty secure. This is more for just looks and to kind of tie the end together and to keep it from getting unraveled. So I'm keeping this short piece on top and wrapping around. I'm at about 1 inch right now of wraps. Let's keep going. Hey, I'm getting better at this. Okay. I'm going to keep wrapping this part around. And it won't matter that I've got a little piece of this extra string sticking out here. I'm going to cut that off anyway when I get this where I want it to be. That's actually not looking too bad. I've got about 1 inch, just over 1 inch. I probably don't need much more than that. I mean, this isn't supposed to be like an ultra secure. It's just basically kind of a finishing touch on this rope. So I'm going to leave it right there. So let's see. Now I've got the job of tying these ends to where they overlap but don't look like a knot sticking out the end here. So let me figure that out. Okay, so I've got the main part of the string and the loose end of the string. What I'm going to do, I'm kind of experimenting here. I'm going to take these two ends and do another square knot. Okay, that's a pretty snug square knot there. And I'm going to go around again and wrap both ends around one more time and do one more square knot. And just to make it easier to work on, I'm going to take this main rope and this main piece of string, and just cut it off. So now I've got the wrap and two loose ends here. I decided to switch the end of this. I did 2 square knots, but on the second one I did a double square knot. Basically, you do a square knot, but then you take the loose end and wrap it through the underside one more time, so there's like a double square knot right there. I just want a little extra security right there, so it actually looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see that. It's a double square knot. So once I dip it in wax, I'll cut these ends off and it should be very secure. Okay, I wanted to try and demonstrate this double square knot. It's nothing complex, but basically I wanted to have a little more security on this last wrap. Now, so here's the beginning part of the string, and here's the end of the string. I'm going to tie what I'm calling a double square knot. Basically, it goes like this. You take it and you tie a regular square knot, so the small end goes through here. But instead of tightening it now, I'm going to run it through one more time. And this gives it just a little bit more security. And like I said, these are more decorative. And this isn't supposed to hold your boat together, but it's a way to make a double, you can see that double knot right there, to kind of finish off these ends. And it's a little more security there. So once you tighten those down, get a nice little row of string. So that stuff I'm just going to discard. I hate wasting it. I might sell this little extra string on eBay or something. So when I got these tied down to the last double square knot, I cut off the rest except for about 1 inch on these overhangs. And what I'm going to do is take the rope and twist it against itself, and you'll see the grain opening on the rope. The grain opens up. What I'm going to do is take this and twist it slightly and take maybe a pair of tweezers or something to press this extra piece down into the inside of the rope. So once I wax it, this thing will just kind of stay hidden and buried underneath the main piece of rope. So let's see here if I can get that in there. You can see me pushing it in. So now it's kind of underneath the rope there. I'll twist it a little bit like this to get it to kind of seat, but now it's actually not hanging loose and it won't stick out. It's right down in that little crack there. Okay, this might be a bit over the top. I'm just going to take the ends before I cut this and just put a small zip tie at the end of the windings. So when I cut the rope, it doesn't like unravel too much. So just a zip tie right there at the end of this. This is where I'm going to cut the rope in half. So since I live on my boat and I don't have a stove, I wanted to use something to melt the wax. So I'm using my Coleman butane cooktop. I'm using a metal cupcake tin. Okay. So now I'm going to take the rope and dip it into the wax. This is very hot. Be careful with this. Have an extinguisher handy if you're using like doing this. I've got these mitts ready. I'm going to dip one of these in here and see what it does. It should basically not boil. See, I've got it in there and it's basically soaking up the wax. So just be very careful with this. You don't want to pull or spill the wax. Just leave it in there long enough for it to soak up into the rope. I wish I had a better, bigger cup for this. This is kind of tight. So hopefully this will soak in enough. Okay. And not spill. So there's one. I'm going to let that cool off. There's my rope thing. I got 3 of these 18-footers, and I'm pretty happy with the ends. They may be ugly, but they're mine. Anyways, look, if you can help me out, subscribe to my channel. If you want to make some comments and talk to me about ropes or anything else, man, I'd love to hear from you. Tiny Boat Living Adventure. Thanks, man. Have a good one.